All your life, you have struggled. All your life, you've been poor. Your parents are poor, you are poor, and you can clearly see that your children will also be poor. They never, ever, ever explain to you why you, together with millions of people, are stranded and stuck in the sort of poverty that you live in right now. They never ever explain to you that you're living inside a fishbowl. You don't have to be a genius to perceive within your spirit and within your own heart that there's a problem. You've tried for years and years and years to own your own home, to buy a house or to build one. But it's impossible. You've tried everything. You've tried to save. You've tried side hustles. Some of you have tried leasing shambas in order to grow something and come and sell it in the market and improve your economic position. You have tried gambling on those sports betting companies. You've even tried joining merry-go-rounds. You have tried joining the pyramid schemes. You've tried all sorts of side hustles just to try and get ahead economically. But it's still impossible. You're still renting a house. You're still struggling financially. You're still struggling with your children. You're always under pressure. You're always depressed. You're always unhappy. And within yourself, you know that something is wrong. This is not the way life is supposed to be. Sometimes you cry, and there's no one to cry to. You've gone to church and you've given the pastor money in order for you to be prayed for to get a miracle. But you're still struggling. You have cried, you've tried everything. And after a while, you feel like you're cursed because you can't explain why life is so difficult. So now you've grown old. And the older you get, the farther and farther away your dream appears to be. And you don't know what's going to happen to you when you're too old to be able to work. You don't have any money saved away. You don't have any pension. You don't have any assets. So you're just hoping that your children will be able to take care of you. But even right now, when you look around, you can see that your children are struggling. They too have the curse of poverty. And you don't know what's going to happen to you or to them. And no one ever explains to you what's wrong with life. You know that something is wrong. You're not supposed to be struggling like this. But no one has ever explained to you why the situation is the way it is. Why you have suffered all your life. And it wasn't your fault. You did your best. No one explains to you that you're living within a fishbowl. There's a context to your existence. There's a framework that has been built around you, an invisible prison that you cannot see. But it's there, and it prevents you from succeeding. And the education that you received did not explain to you about the fishbowl that you're living in. But within yourself, you know that something is wrong, but you're unable to explain it. But they tell you it's your fault that you did not succeed. That others have succeeded. But millions of you haven't succeeded. All of you are stuck living in slums. Whether the slum is in an urban area or in the rural areas, the vast majority of the people in Kenya live in slums. Mud houses or corrugated iron sheet, not even houses, shacks, actual shacks. Majority of the people in Kenya live in shacks. And when you look around you, you can clearly see that something is wrong. But you don't know what is wrong. Well, I'll tell you what is wrong. You live inside an artificial, invisible prison. The Church RV is here to destroy that prison and set you free. Something is preventing all of us from flying beyond a certain height. That is the fishbowl. Government never explains to you that you're living inside the fishbowl, inside the framework that had been created by the British all those many years ago. Why? They don't tell you because the government itself exists within the fishbowl. The government exists to preserve the fishbowl. Their function is not to serve you as an ordinary Kenyan. The function of the government of Kenya is to preserve the colonial interests of the British, is to preserve their economic, military, and political interests in Kenya. So the successive governments that have come to Kenya from 1960 until today, they serve at the pleasure of the British. Not at your service, but at the pleasure of the British. And so what is this fishbowl that we are talking about? What is this invisible prison that we are talking about? We are talking about the total context of Kenya. For example, why am I talking to you in English? That is one barrier. That is one wall of the fishbowl, right? Who owns the economy in Kenya? Who owns all the mines in Kenya? Who owns the oil wells in Kenya? Who owns the best land in Kenya? In Kericho. All the major enterprises in Kenya. Who owns them? Is there any Kenyan multinational that you know? So who controls banking in Kenya? Who controls consumer foods or consumer products, food products in Kenya? Which are the main players? Who controls the advertising revenues in Kenya? Yeah. All these enterprises. Who controls all the major construction companies in Kenya? Where do all the products in Kenya come from? Why is there no manufacturing in Kenya? Why is it that you're wearing mtumba? See, all these constitute the fishbowl, the invisible prison. So that anytime anyone tries to step out of that prison, there's trouble. And you saw Keroche try to step out of the prison. You know, starting a beer manufacturing company in direct competition with the British-owned East Africa Industries. And you have seen the drama that Keroche has gone through, with Jubilee doing everything to destroy them in order to preserve the monopoly by the British. This is the fishbowl. You cannot succeed because you are not allowed to succeed. People have tried to open up motorcycle manufacturing facilities in Kenya because the market is there. We have over 1 million motorcycle riders in Kenya. That's a huge market. People have tried to open up small factories to make motorcycles. Who prevents them? It's the government. The government moves in very quickly to block any attempt to move the economy away from foreign dependency. This is just the reality. So the fishbowl, the invisible prison, is a prison that was left over after the British formally left Kenya in the 1960s. They handed over domestic policies. Yeah, you Africans want to fight amongst yourselves, you want to argue, talk politics the whole day. It's okay, you can have it. But they kept total control over the economy, over foreign policy, and over military. Don't forget that Kenya is still occupied militarily by the British. They have a military base in order to occupy Kenya. But we don't have a military base in England. So we are still under colonial occupation. That's just the practical reality. And the military base is there to protect the post-independence governments from domestic threats, so that if you guys try to rebel against your British appointed governments, the British military is right there in Kenya to fight you. That military of England that is in, I think, Nanyuki or wherever it is, right? That is the personal defense of the governments of Kenya from the people of Kenya. You understand? So the enemy is you. You, the citizen, you are the enemy. Anytime you hear the government saying that we will defend ourselves from all enemies, they are talking about you. They are not talking about defending you from foreigners. No. It's the government talking about itself, defending itself from you. You are that enemy. If you try to threaten the fishbowl, if you try to break out of the invisible prison, the British have their army right there in Kenya, waiting to crush your head. This is the same British army that slaughtered thousands of the Mau Mau freedom fighters, which is why you don't see any Mau Mau person having a prominent role in Kenya, because they were trying to break out of the invisible prison. They were trying to break out of the fishbowl, and they were slaughtered, and the home guards took power, and their descendants now hold power in Kenya. All kinds of power: political power, power in the media, power in religion. It is the home guards and their descendants allied with the British to protect British interests. So that is the situation that we are living in. It is this fishbowl, it is this invisible prison that will never allow you to leave the slum. The slums in Kenya can be emptied in 2 years. It's not difficult. It doesn't even require a lot of money. But the poverty is intentional. Whoever controls this fishbowl, it is not in their interest to have Kenyans becoming middle class. Because the minute majority of the population becomes middle class, they become very independent-minded. You can't tell them anything. You can't give them instructions. It is very easy to control starving people. Very easy. You do not want a situation where people are rich. You want them to living at the level of starvation, so that you can control them easily, so that they don't ask awkward questions. The sort of questions that I'm asking. Awkward questions. Who owns the mines in Kenya? All the mines. Who owns them? These are the awkward questions you're not supposed to ask. You're not supposed to talk about the wealth of the nation, because that belongs to the foreigner. So if you're poor, you're distracted. You don't have time to ask such questions because you're starving. You're too busy hawking on the streets, running after cars. You don't have time to ask such questions because you're starving. But if your belly is full, then you have time to open books and read and to begin to question reality. And you're not supposed to question reality. And so you live in a prison. We have to break out of this prison, because it is this invisible prison that is keeping us poor. It is this same prison that says that you will import everything. You will manufacture nothing. So when our delegations go to these international meetings, the first thing they are told, you will import everything. Make nothing of value for yourselves. We want you to focus on farming coffee and planting flowers. And guess what? The flower farms are not owned by Africans. You don't even own the land in your country. those flower farms are all owned by foreigners. So you're not even making maximum value from your own flowers. This is part of the matrix. So you ask yourself, how did we end up in a position whereby foreigners own all the flower farms? And they are political collaborators. How did that happen? So this is the situation. Do you know of any Kenyan coffee brand that is sold abroad? There's none. The coffee comes from Kenya, but all the brands that sell coffee are not owned by Kenyans. This is the Fishbowl. This is the Fishbowl. The software that we use in Kenya is imported software, and we have so many young people who produce software. I've met them. I've met these developers, and I saw someone had their own. They had created their own social media. It was working pretty well. They have solutions. They have their own search engines. Yeah, Kenyan made. But somehow they never get promoted, right? You've also seen young people come up with rideshare, but still Uber is number one. Uber is given maximum control over the market. This is deliberate policy. They promote whatever belongs to the foreigner is what is promoted. Whatever is made by locals, they do everything to undermine it and to destroy it, because these locals are trying to break out of the fishbowl. They are trying to break out of the invisible prison. And the prison simply says this: Africans are not supposed to own large enterprises. Very simple. All large enterprises where real money is made must be owned by foreigners. That is the prison. So every policy that is followed by government from the 1960s to today is to maintain that system of total foreign ownership over domestic means of production. And as long as this is the situation, you will never leave the slum. Never. You were born in those slums, in the tin shack. You will die there. Your children were born there, and they will also die there. Unless we break out of the fishbowl. But one of the problems in breaking out of this fishbowl is you don't believe that you're in a fishbowl. You don't believe that at all. You think you're free. It's just like trying to convince that fish that it's stuck in a fishbowl. The fish will argue and say, I'm not stuck in any fishbowl. Look, I can see even 5 kilometers away. So you try to explain to the fish, you know what? There's an invisible wall around you, and the fish begins to think that you're mad. What do you mean there's an invisible wall around me? Yeah, there's an invisible wall around you. It's called glass. The fish will never believe you because it can see through. It will say, if it's there, how come I can see through? And you'll struggle to explain to it, what glass is, that it allows in light and nothing else. So even to convince most of you that you're living in an invisible prison, you will refuse to believe me. In fact, you'll begin to think that maybe I'm crazy. But I'm not, and the consequences are there for anyone to see. So basically, how do we break out of this invisible prison? How do we get you out of the slum? How do we get you out of that single room? How do we get you out of that bed sitter? How do we get you out of the matatu? How do we get a house to you? How do we get a car to you? How do we raise your living standards? What do we need to do to get you out of the poverty that you're stuck in? It's very simple. All we have to do is to destroy the fishbowl. Break down the walls of the invisible prison. It's well within our power to do so as people. It would help if government also helped assisted, but you very well know they won't, and they can't. They are part of the fishbowl. The government is the prison warder in the prison built for foreign interests. Okay? So they will not help us. So we have to help ourselves. So what do we need to do? It's always the same thing. You need to buy locally made products every chance you can. If you get a chance to buy Keroche products, buy Keroche products. If you're going to buy, 2 Tuskers, at least buy one bottle from Keroche. Watupie hiyo chupa moja. Give them that sale. Okay? Whatever you buy, make sure that you buy at least one of that thing from a Kenyan manufacturer. If it's perfume, there are local people who make perfumes. If it's soap, instead of buying all your soap from Unilever, buy from a Kenyan company. Unilever is not a Kenyan company. Don't call these companies Kenyan. They are not Kenyan companies. They take out the money and the money goes back to England. And we remain in slums. Be very cognizant of who's manufacturing the product that you're buying. Look at the product. Turn it around. Look, who's the manufacturer? Who owns that product? Who owns the brand? Where is the money going to? If you're doing advertisement, use a local agency. Don't use foreign agencies. Use a local agency. Do everything within your power to promote our own local business people as much as you can, as realistic as it is. That's how you break out of the matrix. That's how you break out of the invisible prison, through ownership of actual companies that produce wealth. And if you're a young person, you're an inventor, or you want to make products, make the product. Don't give up. Make the product. Copy paste if you have to. Copy paste. Don't ask about patents and things of that nature. Copy paste. Buy a product you like that you want to make. Open it up. Look at how it's been made. Copy paste. Put your name on it and market it with your name. We need to become more and more sensitive to the prison in which we live. That's the only way we will break out of this incredibly devastating and unacceptable poverty. It's the only way. The other thing you could do, you could join the CCV party. Come and join us. Join the revolution. The revolution is against poverty. That's it. The enemy is poverty. The enemy is not that tribe or that tribe. No. Or this person or that person. No. The enemy is poverty. That's it. That's our narrow focus. Poverty. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Kenya's time has come. Our time has come. Your time has come. A time to succeed and not fail. A time to grow wealth and not poverty. A time to go up and not down. It's time for you to stop walking and drive your car. Stop renting and buy yourself a house. It's your time to get blessed. Join the CCV movement and together let us kick poverty and unemployment out of Kenya. Become a member today. Donate what you can. And remember that the CCV is the only political organization in Kenya that is squarely built upon Christian values, unlike the rest. We'll see you next time. Thank you.